So we know what's going to happen after a school shooting. Everybody knows what's going to happen. You're going to have Kamala Harris, Joe Biden, and Democrats. It's election season. Everybody's going to politicize this. So the Democrats are going to say, go after the Second Amendment. Let's just tear up the Bill of Rights and the Constitution. Cut up that Second Amendment. Get rid of the Bill of Rights. Get rid of the Constitution. And then the right wing's going to say, thoughts and prayers, everybody. It's not the guns. It's a mental health issue. It's definitely not a gun issue. Just a bunch of crazies all over the place. And they're going to say, more fascism. That's what we need. More fascism, more cops, more guns, more oppression. Neither one of these are right. Mass shootings are definitely a problem in America. 3 quick policy prescriptions, or 4. Hell, I just thought of another one. Empathy. Hey, America, try to empathize. Try to give a damn about one another. What did Jesus say? Love thy neighbor as thyself. Yeah, do that. Try that one. Stop fucking bullying. That's an obvious one. Stop being so oppressive. Don't terrorize. Don't oppress. Don't criminalize. Don't bully. Let's try some empathy. Number 3, don't let kids have guns. There's another problem. Why are kids getting guns? How did that kid... He didn't buy that gun. Whoever supplied the gun should get into trouble as well. You're giving guns to Palestine? You're giving guns to children? Let's create a culture of intelligence. They're there in school for education. They're there in school for education. But you got the bell curve, right? So only the top 20% are going to go anywhere. And when I went to school, I felt like I really wasn't allowed to be smart or do smart things in school, which is ironic. But I also felt like I had to be smart. So I had to feel these contradicting. One, you got to go to school and you better be smart. You better bring home straight A's. I don't even want to see an A- out of you. So I'm going to get abused at home, and the teachers would use that against me. Well, I'll tell your abusive father on you. Oh, cool. That's awesome. Or mother. B, also not to be smart because my peers resented it. So which is it? Am I allowed to be smart or am I not allowed to be smart? If we have a culture of intelligence, then we can actually talk about things. You don't have to get people arguing and debating because, they're not policymakers. But how can you figure out the world if you're not allowed to express yourself? We want people to be smart. We want the younger generation of Americans to be Einsteins, be all that you could be. So we want an intelligence culture. We want a culture of intelligence. The American dollar, just to give an example, is going down. Well, I say we should tie the U.S. dollar to something tangible. Nixon got us off the gold standard in 1971, so let's get back onto the gold standard. Tie the American dollar to gold and silver and land, and also marijuana, diamonds, rubies, tobacco, ramen noodles, cobalt, lithium. We need to tie our dollar down to tangible items. Now we should start an e-coin called the AmeroCoin in order to compete with Bitcoin. This is smart stuff. This is intelligent stuff. I remember I told some smart folks who was on the Ralph Nader campaign, and actually he was a friend of the Nader. Well, anyways, he looked like a smart person. I was just telling him, well, you know how we get rid of a lot of our problems? Well, we could run a deficit 2 or 3 times higher than what we're running now. We can print up more money, and we can give everybody a check. Let's just start printing up them Benjamins and start passing out money to everybody. Let's get UBI for everybody. Start cutting checks out for everyone and put it directly into the people's hands. So they got the freedom to spend it on the things that they think that they need. I thought that was pretty smart. Japan was running a deficit of 2 to 3 times of, their debt or their GDP. So we got a GDP of, where's our GDP at now? It's usually what, $20 trillion or something? Let's see, GDP of America. The GDP of America is $25 trillion. That means technically we could run a deficit of $50 trillion, $75 trillion. What could we do with $75 trillion? A whole bunch of shit. Get rid of poverty. That would be an easy one right there. But you know what he said after I told him that? He was like, so? So what? Oh, okay, my bad, man. What did you want to talk about? Freaking stupid shit? So we do need to lower our deficit in general, lower our debt, maximize our productive potential. We need to figure out how to cure cancer. We need to get into medicine. We need to figure out human health, not just for ourselves. How's your health? Okay, you're not going to be a doctor, but why wouldn't you study medicine and anatomy and biology for your own self? Do you know how many calories you need in order to live? Do you know how many carbohydrates and proteins you need? Do you know how much, you need fats? That's a necessity too. So human health for ourselves, for our loved ones, if they're sick, if they're ill. Being a doctor is a great career. One of my dogs had a retained placenta. So what do you do with the retained placenta? We need to be smart. We need to have a culture of intelligence. So get up there, do your PowerPoint. We don't need to scoff and make fun of them. We don't need to debate and tell the person that they don't know what the hell they're talking about. We need to encourage each other. We want our children to be smart. We want our children to make smart decisions. We want intelligent voters. Capitalism absolutely is fundamentally, our democracy needs rational thinkers. Our capitalist society needs rational thinkers. And we need to solve our problems personally. The children need to solve their problems personally in their personal lives. And then we got problems of society at large. So I got some more policy prescriptions. Let's look at Palestine. The question is this: how do you stop an evil, wicked person or a nation from just mass shooting a bunch of innocent people, or nations? How do you stop a nation from massacring a whole bunch of 200,000 innocent kids? So if we look at Palestine, who's going to stop Israel from mass murdering all the innocents over there? 200,000 kids. If we want to stop Israel from murdering the Hind Rajabs, this is a 6-year-old girl. Israel killed a 6-year-old girl. Most of the 200,000 are old people, women, children, people that are not combatants, they're not military whatsoever. They're also living in refugee camps, so they're poor as hell, living in tents, so they're desperate to begin with. They got nothing to lose, and that's kind of a superpower now, isn't it? And it's Bethlehem, so this is a bunch of Jesus Christ in Bethlehem are being massacred. Where are the Christians at? America is not a Christian society. Shut the fuck up. Shut up. Israel's killing a whole bunch of innocent children in Palestine. So it's good that we're actually saying this needs to stop. Yeah, you can't just go kill a bunch of innocent people, right? So we'll yell at the 14-year-old that had no power and no political sway, with no sovereignty whatsoever. But with the big nation of Israel, we just allow that shit to happen. If you look at the bigger picture. When it comes to the Lord of the Flies, the last scene of the Lord of the Flies was a military helicopter going over. So how hypocritical our society is. The adults engage in war, mass murdering a whole bunch of kids, and then they turn around and tell us for us to do as they say, but not what they do. You're the ones leading by examples, you hypocrites, you brood of vipers. For more than a week, hundreds of Israeli forces have carried out the deadliest operation in the West Bank, which is already occupied. It's already apartheid. It's segregation. We had segregation here in America. Didn't they bust Kamala across the way because she had segregation? She cried about that with Joe, and then Joe made her the VP because of it. Because his policies directly impacted her life. The focus has been on the Jenin refugee camp. So we could talk about politics, talk about world issues, comparative politics. We could talk about democracy, constitutions, Bill of Rights. But if we're going to be serious, how would you stop Israel from killing a bunch of kids? Okay, we're going to say, the 14-year-old, well, if we could figure out how to stop Israel, well, we could figure out how to stop the 14-year-old too. So here's 3 ideas of how to stop Israel from killing a bunch of innocent kids. Well, we just gave them $23.5 billion. We rewarded them. So we're not going to give $1 billion to this 14-year-old kid, are we? Because if we give him $1 billion, that would encourage his bullshit. That's what's going on in Israel right now. They're massacring children, and then our U.S. government gave them $23.5 billion. I'm not even kidding. I'm not even exaggerating. It's $23.5 billion. It would take $5 billion to cure homelessness. But we're not worried about domestic policy. But when it comes to the massacre of the innocents, well, we just have tons and tons of money. We should not finance criminal enterprises. We should not give a bunch of money to criminals who are massacring innocent people. The 14-year-old who they said it was Gray something, he doesn't need to get $1 billion for this. We should invest in extracting raw materials, invest in farming, business projects. We could have done so much more for Palestine. Invest in buildings. We could build schools. We could build hospitals. We could build even little dog houses for their dogs. We got a housing crisis in America, so let's build some houses. $23.5 billion. So don't finance it. Don't encourage it by giving the 14-year-old shooter $23.5 billion. There's a number 5, the 5th policy prescription. Number 6, Israel has our legal protection. America uses the United Nations veto in order to give Israel cover. So the entire world and the United Nations will say, hey, Israel's being a terrorist state. They need to stop with the massacre of the innocents. And then the United States, because there's 5 countries a part of the Security Council, well, we'll use our veto. You have China, you got Britain, you got France, you got Russia. Anytime the whole world condemns somebody but Russia or China or Britain or France says, hey guy, that's my friend. Oh, okay, well shit, we're just going to let the friends of France and the friends of Britain and China and Russia and the friends of America commit whatever crimes they want to commit. So don't give this 14-year-old legal protection. Don't give him cover. Don't give him legal protection. He'll need a public defender. They're going to try him as an adult, which is ironic because he just had to use the bathroom. He had to raise his hand and get permission to go use the bathroom. But he just walked out of class. Wait a second, you're not allowed to do that. And that was that's number 6. When he came back, they wouldn't let him inside the door. So if a crazy person with a gun wants to come back in the door, if Israel wants to come into our country, they want to attack us. So, for some reason, some countries can mass murder innocent children, but others can't. Why is that? Because America uses our United Nations veto to give Israel cover. So the rule of law says that nobody's allowed to murder. Palestinians aren't allowed to murder. Israelis aren't allowed to murder. People from Georgia can't murder. The adults can't murder. Children can't murder. Women can't murder. Men can't murder. Nobody's allowed to murder. In fact, let's also say, let's make it to where nobody can maim or torture or assault as well. No assaulting. Keep your hands to yourself. No torturing, no maiming. Also, don't steal and don't rape and don't murder. Let's get these rules into our heads. I'll actually give Christianity, Catholic school, Sunday school, credit with saying what is good, what is evil. We didn't talk about those things in public school. Shut up and sit down was the main thing. So let's get these moral rules into our heads and enforce them. And stop giving Israel guns and bombs and tanks and planes of war, over and over again. So we don't want to give the 14-year-old a bunch of bombs and tanks and planes of war. We don't want to give them guns. We don't want to give them legal protection. And we don't want to give them $23.5 billion. You know what it would take to stop Israel from mass murder in Palestine? A simple phone call. Hey, we're not going to give you billions of dollars anymore. We're not going to give you the legal protection with the United Nations, and we're not going to give you any more guns. That would stop it. That would stop it if we were being serious. But the adults are being a bunch of hypocrites. And since the adults are being hypocrites, we're supposed to, expect our children to do better than the adults? So we learned 3 things from Israel and Palestine. What can we do to stop the gun violence in America? Well, stop financing wicked projects. Stop protecting the criminals. How many wealthy people, they'll commit a crime and just pay for a lawyer and then get away with their crimes. Alec Baldwin shot Helena Hutchins right in the head. And then he gets away scot-free. Well, he's got the money to here's money for a lawyer, here's money for a lawyer. So if you can afford a lawyer, you get legal protection. But if you you can't afford a lawyer, then you got a public pretender who messes up everything. They're not Atticus Finches. So the poor folks aren't getting Atticus Finches, but the rich are getting whatever lawyers they want. Atticus Finch would just take a basket of tomatoes for payment. Oh, you don't have any money, but you got some tomatoes, you got some figs, you got some grape nuts. And stop giving guns to Israel. Stop giving children guns or access to guns. How did he get a gun? The person that gave him a gun, if the parents just left the gun hanging around, or maybe he bought the gun from the streets. Who knows where this 14-year-old, what they say, Colt Gray. So where did Colt Gray get the gun? Where did he get that gun from? I don't know what, number 10, I don't know where we're at now, but another policy prescription, we don't teach civics in high school anymore. We teach social studies. We need to get back to civics. Why? Because as Americans, not only have we inherited an incredible gift of the Constitution and the Bill of Rights and federalism and the rule of law, and what are the other ones? A lot of incredible things. The 3 branches of government. We have the 3 branches of government to prevent tyranny. We've inherited a great gift of freedom, but we also need to reassert our freedoms as a generation, every generation. So we've got these basket of freedoms, but we also got the freedoms in the state constitution. There'd be a fun social studies or civics project. Why don't you take the freedoms from your state constitution and combine them with the freedoms that's listed in the American Constitution? And I'll tell you this, it's not just the freedoms in the Bill of Rights either. The Bill of Rights are the first 10 amendments. You got 26 amendments, 27. So that means you got another 16 amendments. You got more freedoms past the Bill of Rights, and then you got freedoms inside the body of the Constitution as well. What's the point of America? Well, the whole entire point of America is to perfect the Union, to promote the general welfare, to get us some domestic tranquility, freedom, justice, and defense. That's the 6 reasons. Why do we even have an American government? Well, we got general welfare. We got to promote it. Domestic tranquility. We got to ensure it. We need to protect the freedom for ourselves and posterity. We need to establish justice, and we need to provide for the common defense. That's the whole point. We have a right to religion, so let the religious do their morning prayers or their blessings before their meals or whatever. Let's say the school board is all about censoring the classics. They're getting rid of Anne Frank. They're getting rid of the Bible and Gilgamesh and Huckleberry Finn. And it's very authoritarian. Well, when you turn 18, you could run for school board. That's kind of the big saving grace. You do have a strict hierarchy, and the damn school board's a bunch of authoritarian fascists. Well, the superintendent and the principal and the teachers are going to be a bunch of authoritarian fascists as well. So if you don't like the hierarchy, you could be homeschooled. You could change it when you get out. The school board is an elected body of representatives. So maybe add a student to the school board as well. Colt Gray is going to be tried as an adult. But he just had to ask permission to use the bathroom yesterday, like a damn savage, like he's a nobody nothing. Hey, I'm about to shit in my pants, teacher. Is it all right if I don't diarrhea all over the damn place right here sitting in? There's this Jennifer Gonzalez, I remember, in Grant County. She would basically threaten to piss her pants. I'm going to pee in my pants right now if you don't let me go to the bathroom. And the teacher, okay, all right, go to the bathroom. Don't pee in your pants. For totalitarian regimes, it's shut up and sit down. Young Americans aren't being taught the freedoms listed in the U.S. Constitution. Now, young Americans don't get the adult American rights, but they're going to be adults. So they need to learn them. I remember somebody said, one of my teachers, social studies teacher, asked us what the First Amendment was, and I said, freedom of speech, and she says, no, which was embarrassing. I was like, dang, I thought I knew what the First Amendment was. She said it was the right to religion. You got 5 freedoms in the First Amendment. So it isn't just the right to religion. You also have a right to peacefully assemble, the right to speak, the right to press, the right to religion. They call it the right to express yourself, the right to petition. You got the right to petition. And why am I mentioning this? Because young Americans need to know what their freedoms are going to be. They don't have adult American rights, but they have child American rights, which is a whole nother field. That's a whole nother area, and it's not developed. You got Tinker versus Des Moines, which means you got a right to speak. If you want to protest the Vietnam War, you're allowed to wear a little patch on your arm. You're allowed to wear a little black patch on your arm saying you're opposed to the Vietnam War. So that would be a good thing to get Americans, young Americans, used to the idea that we're a free country, which means person A, person B, Bob and Sally and Mark, Luke, Matthew and John, they all get to petition and they get to peacefully assemble. And they get to speak. For Black History Month, have the students march on the courthouse for a mock civil rights demonstration. Let kids say the prayer before their meals. If kids don't want to stand up for the Pledge of Allegiance, that's okay if that's their bag. This is America. And they're going to be adults. And the reason why I say this is because, let's say, you have a problem, but you don't know how to deal with it. Well, you could just, fucking explode, right? You could just be a fucking Colt Gray and just do some dumb shit and hurt a bunch of innocent people. You could just be a bunch of Israeli American government kind of people and just kill a bunch of Palestinians for no damn reason. Or you could look at the First Amendment. What if Colt Gray would have said, what if I use speech? I have the right to speak, and maybe I should verbalize my problems. What if he would have said, peacefully assemble? Let's say he's got a problem with abusive parents. Well, peacefully assemble, either with his siblings or with some friends from school. Talk to the counselor. Again, speech. Maybe he could petition his parents, write a letter to them, write a letter to the police, write a letter to the principal or the teachers. There is a guidance counselor. It'd be nice just to have counselors. Why don't we have counselors? People say it's a mental health thing, so then we should have more counselors at the school. Not as just during emergencies, but just have counselors all the time. Ask them what's right versus wrong. Ask them how they've been feeling. Just ask them what's been going through their minds. Are they, thinking about their futures? Are they thinking about their careers? Get their minds on the right track. If they do have an abusive environment and they don't want to talk about it, school might be the only structure that they got. You have a right to gather the evidence. You have a right to confront your accuser. You have a right to due process. You got a right to a jury trial. You got a right to a lawyer. You can have mock trials. Have mock trial. Make school fun. Why does school fucking suck? School shouldn't fucking suck. When school fucking sucks, that increases the bullies. School fucking sucks, so the people doing the damn work are going to get made fun of because they think that they're doing the right thing. But if you're obeying a bunch of nonsense or some dumb douchebag telling everybody a bunch of busy work, then in a way that's kind of not doing the right thing either. You should get that teacher fired. Go to the school board. Get that teacher fired. Get yourself a good science teacher. Get yourself a good English teacher. Get yourself a good math teacher. You have a right to equal protection. So if you're getting abused, well, that's illegal too. That could stop. All these problems, you have a right to contract also. You have a right to contract. And those two things, the right to defend yourself and the right to contract, Hobbes was able to create this entire law of nature. 19 rights comes from the right to self-defense and the right to contract. So all these freedoms that we have in the U.S. Constitution are ways to handle your business. They're attempts. You can try to handle your business in a nonviolent, peaceful manner. If you got a problem, try petitioning, try peacefully assembling, try religion, try to pray, try to use your speech, maybe freedom of the press, maybe go to the newspaper, maybe videotape the bullshit. These are peaceful measures that we Americans are allowed to do. So I think that we should encourage these nonviolent, peaceful measures of mediating disputes. Also, community. People want to feel like they're a part of a community. So make sure people are a part of a community. Have extracurricular activities. Even teachers, you got to check yourself. The adults, you got to check yourself. Because if the kids are picking on somebody else, don't let them do that shit. Because you don't know what that person being picked on is going through. And if you allow that shit, then well, you're just as guilty as the damn bullying. But since you're a teacher and you want to be one of the cool kids, don't worry about being one of the cool kids. You're the authority. You're not going to be their best friends. You're there to make sure they know the math and that they know the science and that they know the civics. So when they get out of school, they make good decisions. The right to defend yourself. When it comes to the Second Amendment, we don't want guns in the school and we don't want the kids to have guns. The Second Amendment does suggest you have a right to defend yourself. That's important. Me being one of the straight A good kids, I felt like I wasn't allowed to hit back. So somebody just starts wailing on me. Well, shit, I guess I just have to stand here and get fucking pummeled. Well, shit, I'm getting pummeled there, getting pummeled here, at home, at school, at work. Just get pummeled forever. And then either A, hope that a teacher or a principal would not only A, see the attack, but B, do something about it. Well, I'm getting pummeled right now. I sure hope an authority figure sees this and puts a stop to it. But they're not everywhere all the time. There's people in the bathrooms, there's people in the stairwell, and then there's I'll catch you outside or I'll catch you after school. So if a teacher or a principal didn't see the attack and stop it, then I would have to say something about it, but I'd have to have the confidence to say something about it. And then they would have to listen to me, and then they would have to believe me. They would have to hear me out and believe me. So the principal and the teacher would have to do like a little trial. Okay, what do you say? What do you say? And then get the witnesses. And if there's videotape, get the videotape. Find out the truth. You can't get justice until you know the truth. And then I didn't also want to be a snitch or a rat or a little tattletale either. So I'm not allowed to hit back. I think the best way to teach a bully a lesson, if a bully wants to punch you in his arm or in your arm, you could go straight to the teacher. Hey, he punched me. Or you could just punch him back. And then the whole thing is over. The whole thing is over. You don't need to do anything further. The bully got his just desserts. He don't like to be punched in the arm. And we do need to empathize with the victims. First, empathize with the victims. Empathize, empathize, empathize. Once the victims have been heard, then you can empathize with the perpetrators. But empathize with the victims first. So we got to let the kids defend themselves. Tell the kids that injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. And what does that mean? That means somebody getting raped, murdered, maimed, killed, anywhere in the world, whether it's at your house, at work, at school, injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. If you allow that major injustice happen, well, that person is going to keep on committing their crimes. And then it'll just multiply and spread all over the place. But if some bully punches you and you immediately punch him back, well, then it's over. That bully got his just desserts, unless they try to escalate it. But if you saw somebody being bullied, if you saw Colt Gray bullying somebody and you didn't say anything, you're very much responsible. If you're a mouse and an elephant is standing on your tail and you're the giraffe who's just watching it, how do you feel if you're the mouse? Hey, giraffe, this fucking elephant's sitting there bullying me and you're just watching and laughing and going along with this shit. Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. That's eternal law. That's like thou shalt not steal, thou shalt not bear false witness, thou shalt not murder. And also if you saw Colt Gray being bullied too. If you're seeing anybody being a victim, speak up, do something about it. If you're too scared, talk about that too. If you saw Colt Gray picking on somebody or something, you want the ones who are being bullied to stand up for themselves. The teachers aren't always around. And running and telling the teacher isn't really a good way to stand up to a bully. You're in high school, they're going to try him as an adult. So if you run to the teachers, well, the teachers all go home after school. Now you're just walking to your house and you live next to the damn bully. So, hell, there's hours. There's hours in the evening, hours at night, hours in the morning that the bully could do whatever the hell that they want to do to you. I think we should also consider alternative schooling. Now, folks are asking or saying that there probably were signs, and probably, perhaps. Children are indicative of the culture and the environment that they're in. In Full Metal Jacket, after all the soldiers in the outfit of Leonard took a bar of soap and put it in a towel, and they beat the hell out of him because the leader, the teacher, the drill instructor kind of was getting on Leonard because he was fat and slow, and he was kind of slowing the whole outfit down. Once all the soldiers turned on Leonard, Leonard is a soldier too. Maybe he wasn't cut out for it. Maybe he needed to exercise. Maybe they should have had a 6-week exercise program for Leonard. Put him in the exercise program. But instead we're going to do a code red. We're going to bully Leonard. And we're going to try to bully Leonard in order to motivate him, right? That's what we're doing. We're not bullying Leonard because you're all a bunch of savages. You're bullying Leonard in order to teach him a good lesson. And then Leonard started talking to his gun. Why was he doing that? Well, the drill instructor said that the rifle was his best friend. So, of course, he's going to talk to his rifle. Now, it is weird to talk to your rifle, but who else is Leonard going to talk to? The drill instructor's against him. All of his people, all the other soldiers are against him. He's supposed to go to the assholes who's bullying him. They're going to hear him out. They're going to empathize and listen. Go to the authority figure. They're not going to listen either. So I think it's important to empower the individual, to come up with a solution that makes sense. Leonard, you're not cut out for this. But we don't want you to not be a soldier. You're not able to do boot camp, but let's get you some exercise. Let's get you running. Let's get you on a good diet. And then you come back here 6 weeks, or you come back here next year, and I bet you'll be able to do it a lot better. Instead, Leonard goes fucking ballistic. And if you read your Hobbes, there's actually a tradition with English-speaking people with going ballistic. Because if you don't have a civil society with constitutional rules or natural laws, then it's just the law of the jungle. It's everybody versus everybody. And so if you don't have a civilization and you're not constitutional, you're not listening to God's laws, your own laws, the school's laws, the nation's laws, you have no laws whatsoever, not even the natural laws, then it's just every man versus every man, every woman and child, everybody versus everybody, the law of the jungle. And the law of the jungle says anybody can do anything. So we don't want the law of the jungle. So that's why we should learn Hobbes' 19 laws of nature. That's where you begin. I think we should also consider universal basic income, putting money directly into the hands of the people. Put money directly into the hands of the children. Put money directly into the hands of the adults. I think we should think about voucher checks. I don't really believe in religious schools, but I do believe in freedom and democracy. I wish freedom and democracy was in our public schools. And like I said, you could change it through the school board. You'd have to be an adult, though. You'd have to run for, you'd have to campaign. You'd have to convince people, and then you'd have to convince other people in the school board. You'd have to convince the people to vote for you, and then you'd have to convince the people in the school board to do it. But you already have schools out there like Summerhill and Sudbury. So if you had a voucher, I'm a parent, and I got children, and I get a voucher from the state or from the federal government, because every student that goes to school, that school gets $10,000 to $20,000 from the state. So the school makes money off of you being there. You don't make any money, but the school takes that money and gives it to the adults, give it to the counselors, give it to the principals, to the teachers, to the concrete, the electric company, whoever. But since I believe in freedom and democracy, I'd like to send my children into a freedom and democracy school. And the thought of sending my children to a public school, I don't know. I think that makes me very nervous. Public school with those crappy teachers and those crappy kids, I want my children to actually go places. I want my children to go somewhere. And with Summerhill and Sudbury schools, since they believe in freedom and democracy, they'll actually empower my child to be all that they could be. They'll learn their civics. They'll learn what they need to learn. So there's just some meanderings. There's a couple, 10, dozen, whatever, policy prescriptions. We can do better. Like not politicizing this shit.